Welcome, everybody. The problem I want to talk about today is adding configuration to our applications or any kind of customization, to be honest. I don't know how it's about you, but it always feels like chasing a rabbit. So your client asks you to add this customization or this configuration option. You have added it, and next day, the same customer is saying, no, I want to have another one, and yet another one, and yet another one. And it really feels like chasing a rabbit. And today, I would like to show you how you can use Open Policy Agent that provides us policies as a code to address this problem as a software developer if you're building software as a service application or any kind of application. My name is Wojciech Barczynski. I'm the VP of Engineering at Spacelift. So let's take a look on the rabbit. Policies, configuration, decision points, but also product plans and features. And why it's important? It's important for our company because we are building a software as a service, which is a continuous deployment for infrastructure as a code, and our users are power users. So they are not satisfied with some toggles. They want to have a real control. They want to treat our tool as a Lego pieces that they can bind together to have their own dream deployment platform for Terraform, CloudFormations, or Kubernetes. That's why we got here. And there are multiple solutions for the problem. One is endless forms. We know it from GitHub. If you're creating a token in GitHub, the number of tokens is this toggles and checkbox is overwhelming a bit. Second, so it does not scale. It's not so pretty. Second approach is Markdown language. We know it from Kubernetes. We know it from other platforms. But it's still not very flexible. Yes, we need to teach our customer or our user to learn a totally new approach in setting configuration. And also, it does not spark joy. I know that if we're defining the deployments in Kubernetes, that's not bad. But if you want to force a full-fledged configuration to your users, it's something that does not spark joy and does not give us flexibility that we're looking for. So we are arriving in another solution. Let's add Lua as a part of our platform. But here, the problem is that we are inviting all this power of a proper language, but also that's a huge attack vector. Because actually, we are giving a full-fledged language with all libraries and supporting a language and all the libraries, looking for this CVEs and so on. It's not fun, and it's always stressful. And, of course, restricting proper generic or general purpose language is very hard. So where we arrive? We arrive at the policy as a code, which provides us a language with safety guarantees. It can work on loosely structured and unstructured data, and it has a very proper JSON support. JSON support is important because now everything is JSON, or YAML in this regards. And the solution that we or technology that we chose is Open Policy Agent, which provides us language which is called Rego. It provides us query and transformation capabilities. It works, of course, on loosely structured data, has JSON support, and this diagram shows how you can employ it as a part of the service. So we have a service. We handle a request. We are sending the input to OPA as a JSON. We are running it against a policy which is Rego, and we are returning also JSON. So this is the unstructured input, unstructured output. I mean, loosely structured, because it's JSON, it's not text. And it gives us a lot of flexibility, and it does not constrain us. Before we go into data, I just want to tell you a little bit more about Open Policy Agent project. It's a project which aimed at providing a unified language to define authorization and authentication for cloud native, but also not only for cloud native. It's created by Styra. This is the company that is leading that. There's a lot of projects from Kubernetes gateways, Istio extensions, to CI/CD tools like Conftest or Kist. And let's take a look how it looks like, because I want to make a demo. So here what you see is a playground, Rego playground, and let's see how to work with Rego and input. So let's imagine we have our application handling a request, and we know that we have a user, Natalia 12, and she is a member of our project, and she is in the team platform. Let's take a look how we would define a policy. So here's our input. This input, of course, can be much more complex. So this is a sample from our product that we also enrich it with remote IP and timestamp. And here's the policy. Let's see how it works. Okay, and let's evaluate it. So in the end, we want to know whether Natalia should be admin, and surprise, surprise, she is an admin. So what is happening here? We are reading from inputs field teams, and later we are evaluating whether any element in teams is equal platform, if any element is equal engineering, and of course we are denying if somebody is not the member of the project. I could, for example, break it a little bit, and then I can see the decision is not an admin. And as a software developer, this is what our application is generating. This is what we presented to our customer as an input. Dude, if you're writing a policy for our system, this is what you should expect. This part we want to give in the hands of our users. So they can take a look on any field that we provide to define their policy. We can think about it more like a decision point, more than policy. And this is our output. So it looks pretty simple. And the plus of this language is it's safe. It's not Turing complete. It does not provide you loops. And it guarantees to end, to finish, to complete computation, which is very cool when you are about to run code provided you by externals inside heart of your application. That is why we went for that. And there are a few other things that I want to mention about Rego. First, it's readable and easy to read for non-programmers, although we will look into it in a moment. It's declarative. This beautiful syntax is inspired by data log, and I told you that is safe and guaranteed to terminate. And additional really nice thing, I'm not going to show it because it's a quite short talk, but Rego provides you a lot of functions that works out of the box. Sorting, array operations, string operations, JSON operations. So actually, this policy can be very complex. So in our case, we are defining the decision points, but in case of tools like conftest, you can define the rules for linting your system. For example, Terraform or Kubernetes manifests. You can also write your own function. It's not very complicated. And the last part, but is more important if you're using OPA as an agent and not like inside your application, you can also have this kind of state in your OPA agent. So for example, in this case, we can set up like a maintenance, and I just show you how it would look like. Give me a second. So I just wrote a rule, which is saying, whenever there is maintenance, please deny access to everybody. Of course, this rule I would need to change a bit, but this just shows you the flexibility and how fast you can define the rules. And this kind of playgrounds are often the parts of software as a service that are using Rego as an internal decision point definitions. Okay, let's go back to the slides. And these policies can be much more complex. So, for example, here's an example of a policy that taking a look on the weekdays. And for example, we are not allowing people to log in when it's not a day of the week, but it's the weekend. You can also define something very fancy things like checking the IPs. So it gives a lot of power in the hands of developers. And this is, I also want to show you an example that's showing the usage of Rego outside our software. For example, conftest is a very nice linting tool. And here we can see in an example of a rule which is saying, if your deployment is running your program as a root, please deny it. The same way how we are doing that inside our application. And another example of a bit more complex things. For example, this is the approval policy, which is saying, I will just take a look here from 9. So we are defining what does it mean that is the director approval, what does it mean DevOps approval, security approval, and we are saying, if approval was made by director, please make the changes to the infrastructure. Otherwise, please ask, it's required to have 2 approvals from two different teams. Okay, so that was about the Rego. So what we know about Rego is it guarantees us to terminate. It's a data log language. It should be more readable to our users than the normal general programming language. And let's take a look how does it look for the programs. So we have 2 options to run OPA agent. The first one is running as a daemon. So you're running OPA as a daemon. This one you will need to do if you are writing your program in C#, Python, languages where you cannot use built-in library. The second is using as an internal library, and this is possible only in Goland and Wasm. So this is the 2 technologies that you have a native support for built-in OPA. And regarding Wasm, it's still experimental, so usually there's only Golang. But Wasm is going to reach maturity in the future. And there are 2 options regarding Golang. First one is a library, quite low level, but then you can really use it inside your program. Second one is a high-level SDK that lets you to run OPA agent and modify its behavior. In our case, we are using Golang as a library, and I want to show you how easy it is to write the code against the API.
I will help you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm very good at that.
Oh my God, amazing. Okay, guys, so here I have the following example. Let's take a look first at the code. I'm using a Rego library, and I'm saying to Rego, I'm going to ask you for a result. We will see what does it mean result. First, I'm setting the defaults, and after that, I'm applying the policy from the customer. I'm applying first defaults because I want to know what I will get in the end. So let's see how it works. So here are my defaults. So this is what I'm doing in my application. I'm defining what does it mean the result for my policy. So in this case, I'm defining admin, allow, and deny.
Quick question, can you hear Wojciech well, or I should, okay? Tell me.
Okay. And this is this kind of the defaults. And here comes the policy from the client, and this is the policy that actually comes from the client. So normally we're reading it from the database, and this is the policy we have seen before in the demo. And this is how you instantiate it. So first, you define what you want to get. Later, what is very important is defaults, because in Rego, it is done like that you cannot override already defined policies. So what we're doing here, actually, we are setting this kind of safe boundaries. So at the end of the execution of Rego, I'm going to have a result, and this result is going to look like that, and the client will not be able to overwrite it. And in the end, of course, policy and input, as we have seen before. So just run it, because it's not a demo if you're not running it. Okay. So what I would expect, because this is exactly the same demo that we had before, admin is true, allow is false, and deny is false. And of course, just to show that I'm not making it up, I could add something and to see that now evaluation says that dear Natalia cannot have access to our system. This is the one part of the demo. Second thing that is important to not forget when you are working with OPA in your system is to be aware that there are some unsafe built-in functions. So for example, it's very rare that you want your customer to be able to send HTTP requests from your system. Yes, so I can imagine a perfect spam machine. So you can deny, like, I know that there's a lot of functions from OPA, but I would like to restrict the following functions. So one of them is HTTP send. We don't want to send it to the customer. OPA runtime, we do not want to leak how we are running our system. Rego parse module does the very internal, the same with other stuff, especially trace, because time now, NS we restrict because it was unperforming for some time. And the last one is trace. We want to restrict it because it shows execution path of our system. So let's see how it works. Let's see. So you define the built-in. And you need to give it to the Rego library before you are going to evaluate. The system. One second.
Don't worry, no one is looking at you, so.
Yeah. And then you need to restrict the modules. And this is something that we need to remember, that you need to restrict also functionality, and you need to see which kind of things you need for your application. And the next thing that is important is that you can define your own function. Because sometimes you do not want your customer to write a big chunks of code that is modifying or going through the JSON code. Sometimes you can provide something that is ready to use and it's implemented in the performant way. And that was all the demo. So just for me to summarize it, whenever you're building the Golang application using OPA, it's quite important first to set up this first policy that is setting up the expected output. After that, we are applying the policy from the customers. And in the end, we also should remember about limiting the built-in functionality that we see that might be dangerous for us. And regarding lesson learned from our perspective is, first, it's quite easy to integrate with Golang, and the ability to define new functions with Golang it's very neat, and it helps us to iterate quite fast. And it also provides us an implementation that is safe. The only thing that is difficult when you are deciding to use Rego, whether you are going to decide to use it for your internal application or you would like to use Rego as a linting definition for your organization to standardize something across the board, is that sometimes it is difficult to work with Rego. It's quite complex because it's data log, and actually if you want to write more code, it can be quite difficult. So in our case, and many systems similar to ours, what we do, we're providing ability to see what decision was made and why. So what we can see here in this view is we have some pull requests with some Terraform plan. And we have here a plan policy, and we are providing a sample to our users. So they can really see what was the input, what is the output, and simulate it. So for example, I could deny something, like, give me a second, I just have a ready to use code here. So here what I'm saying, if the commit author is Wojciech, please deny him. And what I can see, the policy was enabled. And this is the one way how we are tackling this problem. And second way how we are tackling this problem is to provide always the very well-defined definition. And of course, the example. And the third very interesting trend is you can actually write unit tests against your OPA policies. So you can have a GitHub repository with your Rego policies, with JSON definitions, and run a test. Actually, OPA has a support for testing, and it's also, there's a quite nice documentation how you can ensure that the policy that you are writing, whether you are writing it for Spaceleaf, ConfTest, Stira, or any other solution, are behaving as you expected. If we take a look on what Styra is doing with this problem, because actually that's the only one challenge, it's a little bit similar to the Kubernetes deployment files. They are complex, but nobody found anything easier. But the way how Styra is tackling that, you can find on their website, in their portal, Builder, actually, which I just want to go to the screenshots, which actually will guide you how to write the statements. You can also use their playground. Their playground has the ability, I just need to jump to the playground, have the ability to say you which statements were evaluated in which way, which were positively, which were touched, which were not touched. So it's a Styra builder. And the one thing that I just want to say that it's good to watch out, except of course, excluding the unsafe functions, is to watch out for the memory and for the size of the input, because actually OPA is evaluating everything in the memory. So if you have, I don't know, Terraform plan or any other JSON that you want to validate with Open Policy Agent Rego language, it might blow up your memory usage. So this is the only thing that you should always look for. And this is, I was mentioning about other parts and tools in the ecosystem. So for sure, there's the Kubernetes. A lot of technologies on top Kubernetes use OPA. New gateway for Kubernetes also using OPA. You have Istio extensions. You have a lot of CI/CD tools. And this use case, this is what I show you, it was more from a perspective of a developer. But you can think about OPA as a way of encouraging and enforcing best practices. So in one company before, we're using OPA, to be more specific, conf test, to ensure that our Kubernetes deployment files have the right tags. They had the right fields. And what is very good is because it's the Rego, it's also easy to encourage other teams to contribute. And the last thing is, thank you very much. I see already here, I should...
No, it's fine. Please keep this mic, if you can, for a second. Thank you, Wojciech.